So we're joined now by Musa Mdunge, political analyst and a PhD candidate from the University of Dundee, to unpack this story as well as other parts of the US's relations with other countries as far as tariffs are concerned. Musa, thank you for joining us. How are you this Tuesday?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm well, and how are you doing?
I'm well, thank you so much. We appreciate you making time. Donald Trump, the US president, saying Musk's plans or Elon Musk's plans to launch a new political party are ridiculous. He's been reported as saying that in the press. How serious do you think these plans for this new political party are?
Well, look, it's plans that are emanating from the richest man in the world and a man who played a critical role in the election again of Donald Trump. He threw a lot of money to this election, and it's a consequential moment because possibly what it does represent is the fact that we could see a fundamental split within the Republican Party that really impacts the trajectory of US politics in the next 10, 15 years. Because in many ways, the next year's midterm elections represents for the Republican Party a generational challenge where possibly they may lose control of Congress depending on the swing of the votes. And so while, Elon Musk's party may not in the end win the presidency, but it is possible that they will have an impact. And, even if we look at history, history does point to that effect, even where third parties didn't get electoral votes. Remember 2016, largely Donald Trump's election in that election was based on the impact of third parties in selected swing states that drove the vote towards him rather than Hillary Clinton. So it is a consequential moment.
So the US has always been operating on a two-party system, and you say it might make an impact, this new party. But how likely would this party, in terms of resonating with the American people, be?
Well, let's look at the popularity of Donald Trump's policies currently and what he's pushing. So there is some sort of appetite, if you think on the left, on the Democratic side, where there could be some voters who may possibly swing towards his particular party, in the same way he may chip at some votes in terms of the Republican Party as well. That is why even in his tweet, he notes this by saying that possibly running in about 3 or 4 Senate seats, as well as about 8 or 10 House seats. He understands that he's not going to win a lot of electoral votes. History doesn't point to that. The most third parties have ever won is 6% of the electoral, 16% of the electoral vote in 1912. But that's because you are dealing with Theodore Roosevelt, who was a former president. So in many ways, given how popular, given the influence of Elon Musk, it is possible that it'll have some impact, to draw some votes, but I don't see him getting more than 4 or 5% of any electoral vote. But that may count at the end of the day, given how close US elections have tended to be in the past, say, 12 years. It is likely that that will have an impact in the midterms and who becomes president in 2028. And it's not just how he impacts Republicans here. It's also how he can impact Democrats as well. Because one of the criticisms that has been laid on the Democratic Party is that they've been non-existent over these past 6 months as Donald Trump has really ruled, America as a king in many ways. And so there is an opportunity in a space where a third party can do something different and present something different. The appetite is there.
Talking of Elon Musk's influence, is he a convincing candidate for political leadership? And what about his principles give him an advantage to challenge the Republicans and the Democrat parties?
Well, let's look at already the name that he has chosen, right? The name tells you everything about a person. So the America Party, right? He's a person who really, for all intents and purposes, is trying to convince not only himself not only other political pundits and political players, that truly he is American. This is identity politics at its greatest. And in many ways, you see it even in the rebuttal of Donald Trump, reminding the American population that, Elon Musk is not an American necessarily by birth. He came here by naturalization. And so in many ways, it is a politics of identity that he's likely to present. He would like to believe that he's a symbol of the American dream. And so in many ways, he will present that and how he can take what he has done in Tesla and in his other businesses to the American economy. But he has a problem. He's already been part of government. He has a record, and it didn't go that well as the leader of DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. We know how unpopular that department has been and how it is likely to impact Republicans in very key House seats come next year's midterm elections. So is he somebody who can have an impact in US elections? There is no doubt. He has a lot of money, he has a lot of influence, and he has the businesses that have that give him that kind of influence. But whether it will bite, I just don't see it being that impactful, because after all, this is not 1912. You're not dealing with a former US president here. And history just shows in the last rounds from 1980 until the 2020 elections, no third party has won an electoral vote, though they've been able to hit and hammer in terms of the popular vote, impacting other candidates' electoral vote. It's not so much about them. And I think that's what's going to happen this time around again. Rather, the focus has to be on what is the impact on the Republican and the Democratic candidates, whoever they may become next year.
What sort of organizational plans should the America Party look into?
Well, look, the tricky thing here is each state has legislation pertaining to the formation or the registration of a third party. And so, given that Elon Musk has a huge financial sort of chessboard to play with here, and as well as I would imagine he would have the kind of legal representation, and there will be those Republicans who will want to jump on the bandwagon for a good payday. And that will allow him to be able to manage and maneuver the complexity of registering a party in each state. Though American politics is supposed to be geared to be a multi-party political process, the rules of the game are framed in such a way that it's very difficult and very expensive. And so he's already got that issue out of the way, the financial end of things. He has got the muscle. The question is, can he build a team that is going to be effective and a team willing to go against Donald Trump, who, for all intents and purposes, remains very popular. Even with all the tariff hullabaloo, he remains a very popular president. And so in many ways, it's going to be about organizational planning. And I'm not sure maybe that 2026 is really something that is effectively a good plan. But 2028 is where I think if he plans it properly, can really have an impact. But in politics, a day's a long time. Things change, right? And so while he speaks like this today, tomorrow may be a different conversation. And it all depends on where the American economy moves and where this president moves, who makes policy on a whim.
All right. Let's leave it there for today, Musa. Thanks again for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks. Musa Mdunge is a political analyst and a PhD candidate from the University of Dundee, unpacking these relations or lack thereof between Donald Trump and Elon Musk and the new developments of the announcement by Musk to want to launch a new party, calling it the America Party in the US. We're going to discuss further also on this topic and looking at other political developments in the US as far as tariffs are concerned. So stay with us on Rise and Shine.